It's a pleasure to welcome you and our guest speaker, Josefina Lopez, to this special program in honor of International Women's Month. Born in San Luis Potosí, the correct pronunciation, Mexico, Josefina was 5 years old when she and her family came to the United States and settled in the East Los Angeles neighborhood of Boyle Heights. Josefina, like all of us, deals with everyday responsibilities, joys, and challenges. But her immense talent, passionate drive, and formidable spirit have made her into a female powerhouse and one of the most admired Chicanas of her generation. Her writing is her voice and her strength. She's earned numerous awards and accolades for her work. She is the founder and artistic director of Casa 0101 Theater in Boyle Heights, and the author of Real Women Have Curves, Hungry Woman in Paris, and 8 Ways to Say I Love My Life. Through her writing and community action, she inspires us to love ourselves, respect our differences, and never give up or compromise our ideals. She's a fascinating and inspirational person. You will see that very shortly. She's dedicated to her craft and her community. Please join me in welcoming the real thing, our author and guest speaker, Josefina Lopez.
You know, there's so much I want to say, but I think I only have 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to tell you my story as much as I can. And then I'd love to get your questions. And then afterwards, there'll be a book signing. And even if you can't buy a book or don't want to buy a book, just come say hi. I have a theater in Boyle Heights, and I have flyers for our show called Chicanas, Cholas y Chisme. And I know we all love chisme. So, I tell people that if my mother, I was born in Mexico, in San Luis Potosí, in Cerritos. Anybody from San Luis Potosí? Are my relatives here?
Yeah. We brought him.
Yeah, okay, qué bueno, yeah. So, my mother didn't have the opportunity to get an education. She only got to go to the 8th grade, which is still was more than my father. And so I know that if my mother would have gotten an education, if she would have had the same opportunities as I did, she probably would have been a better writer than me, because she's a better chismosa than I am. I tell people that some of the best writers are women telling oral literature at the beauty salon, right? Mm-hmm. But they, not having had the opportunities or the education, they just share their stories with the people in the sewing factories or in the beauty salons or at the mercado. And so for me, International Women's Day is very important, because I realize that I can't take for granted the fact that I have a great life, and I tell people about my life. I try not to tell too much about my life, because then it sounds like I'm bragging. And with Mexicanos, we all have to be humble, right? I'm like, oh, no, we can't brag, because then, that evil lie, right? That alma loco, No, so I have a great life, an extraordinary life. And to me, I don't take it for granted that it came about as a result of so many women who are not around today who fought for me to have this extraordinary life. I tell people that I broke down and started crying when I realized, I was watching a documentary about Susan B. Anthony, right, who fought for the right to vote, for women to get the right to vote in this country. And I just started crying and crying, because I did not realize, and I did not know, that she died before women got the right to vote. And when I heard that, I started crying, because I said, oh my God, this woman who I did not get to meet, she fought so that I could have a voice. And I'm going to fight so that other women can have a voice. Because there are things that women still can't do in this country, as much as we think it's a democracy. And then I go, I want to fight so that other women, especially Latina women, have a voice. Because I tell people that, the reason I started writing is because as Latinos, we're constantly born into the story, especially in this country, that we're here to be somebody else's servant. On television, Latinas are either the sex servants, being the hot señoritas who are just there for sex, or we're there cleaning the mess. or they're cleaning, you know? And to me, I feel like, no, you know what? God created all of us to be fully self-expressed, to basically find out who we are destined to be, to use our gifts to create something beautiful and powerful. And you know, all work is important. I'm not putting down the work of anybody who serves, because to serve others is a great thing. But I know that I wasn't meant to be, you know, there's certain, like my mother wanted me to be a cosmetologist, and I think that's great. I think if you, like that's your dream and your passion to make people beautiful, I think that is beautiful, you know. But for me, I knew that if I, you know, like my mother said, Mija, don't go to college. I'll pay for your education if you go to cosmetology school, right? And I knew that I probably could cut hair very beautifully, but then I would probably be telling stories, right? And be like, oh, and then people would be like saying, you got such great stories, why aren't you writing? And I didn't want to have that regret that I didn't become a writer, so I knew that I had to become a writer. Anyway, I'm jumping all over the place, but I'll start my story. You know, so I was born in San Luis Potosí. My parents brought me here when I was 5 years old. I have 7 brothers and sisters. We were undocumented. I didn't know I was undocumented until I was about 12. And then it was very difficult to go to college because I was undocumented. It was really sad. And part of the reason I wrote Real Women Have Curves is because after high school, I had to go work in the sewing factory with my mother and my sister because I couldn't go to college. I had to wait a year to be legal. I applied for amnesty, and then I became a legal resident, but during that year, I couldn't qualify for financial aid, so I worked in my sister's sewing factory. And in that sewing factory, I got to hear all these beautiful stories that all these women shared. And I laughed so much every day, you know. One of the big reasons why I write is because as Latinos in the past and still today, we're mostly portrayed as victims. You know, people like feel sorry for us, or like, you know, there are some shows now that are portraying us as winners, and you know, I'm enjoying watching Latinas like being detectives or being the head of a telenovela, being a virgin, you know, who gave birth, you know, like all these stories, I'm enjoying them. Now I got a little distracted here. I have ADD, by the way. Okay. So now what was I who was listening? Okay. What was I saying?
About all the virgin, what was
the
it?
virgin, okay, no. But then we're portrayed as victims. Latinos are constantly portrayed as victims. And I didn't want to portray us as victims because, you know, when I was working in the sewing factory, I remember feeling sad because I thought, oh, all my friends from high school, just like in Real Women Have Curves, you know, when they're all talking about what colleges they're going. You're recording me? Hi. Okay. All right. You got my good angle, mujer? All right. Can you like beep every time I cuss? No. All right. Because you see, I have ADD, which is a gift and a curse, and you're gonna see. Okay. So, all right. So back to, I didn't want Latinos to be portrayed as victims, because when I was working in the sewing factory, you know, even though I felt sad that I couldn't go off to school, like a lot of my friends were there, you know, I was in an AP English class at the High School for the Arts. And most of my friends were going to Ivy League schools because they were all, you know, highly educated, white kids, artists, very talented. And here I was undocumented, you know, working class. And, you know, when we were putting up what colleges we were going to, I remember putting School of Hard Knocks. Because I was so embarrassed that everybody was putting like Princeton, Yale, you know, and I was like, man, I can't go to college, not because I don't have the mental capacities, because I'm undocumented. So I put School of Hard Knocks as my joke. But so when I left high school, I was working at McDonald's, which I didn't like. Then I started working in the sewing factory. And I remember when I was in that sewing factory, I was so happy to go because the cheeseman was so good. Right? And I joke about the cheeseman, but let me tell you, cheeseman goes very far, okay? In that, I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to go back to work, even though it's really hard because I did iron for like 6 to 8 hours, which is really hard work. But the ladies would have such juicy cheeseman, and my mother would have such great cheeseman. My mother would like tell the funniest, dirtiest jokes sometimes, you know? That I'd be like, we'd just be laughing and sewing and laughing and sewing, that I thought, wow, you know, we're having such a great time. You know, I have 7 siblings, so if I say something bad or appears in the magazine, one of my siblings always gossips about me, right? Ay, que está diciendo de este, que el otro, que el otro, and then she calls me, ¿qué estás diciendo de este? And I'm like, ay! And then, you know, like Latina women, right? Like my mom goes to a curandera, so if I tell her, oh, I didn't say that, my curandera goes, oh, yes, she did. My curandera like looks at, you know, my mom goes to a curandera, so she, you know, she doesn't use Facebook, she goes to a curandera and keeps up with us. With a curandera who basically shows her in this water. And, you know, it's hard being Mexican, right? Anyway, so don't tell my parents about this, okay. So, so my father, you know, like, would say all kinds of things, because my dad didn't have an education, and again, you know, I don't mean to disparage him, but my dad didn't believe that women should be educated, right? So my dad had certain beliefs about women, and so I basically grew up thinking, ugh, it's no good to be a woman. God, why was I born a woman, right? Sometimes we ask ourselves, shoot, if I would have had choice, I would have been a white gay man, though. That's what I would have been.
All right.
I think white gay men like have it great because they can be fabulous, wonderful, and then they have power and status and entitlement. I go, wow, like, okay. Anyway, but yeah, so I always felt like there was something wrong with being a woman because I was constantly told that we weren't good enough, and I believed those lies. And then I used to be an athlete. I used to mostly play sports, and so my goal was to be so tough that I would be like an honorary guy, you know. It was kind of that way when I was younger. And so when I was working in the sewing factory, I was working with women, and it was the first time that I had worked with women, and I realized that women are powerful. And that is such a powerful statement for me, because it really changed the way I saw women. It really changed the way I saw my mother. I used to look at my mother like, again, relatives are here, so I would be like, ay, mi mamá, no, you know, she's like a doormat. Like, my mom doesn't stand up for herself. You know, I didn't understand, too. I didn't understand how hard it was that, like, my mother was undocumented, and then my mother didn't feel like she could speak up, because if she spoke up and complained, then my father would say, hey, pues, váyanse a Mexico. That she would basically send her back, you know? I didn't know that my mother was going through that. So in my mind, I thought, oh, my mom's like a doormat. Why can't she be a feminist? Why can't she be like these white women, you know? I didn't understand. It wasn't until I was in the sewing factory that I really understood what it meant to be a third world feminist. You know, and people say, you know, because I was reading Gloria Steinem, I was reading all these white feminists, thinking, oh, why can't we be like this, you know? And then when I finally was around these women, I realized, wow, you know, third world feminists are basically women who want equality, but they also honor the fact that they want children and they want a family, and that having children and a family is a part of being a woman, and it is not something that's derogatory or wrong or bad, that it's something that could be empowering to a woman, a source of strength, right? And that women of color want and need different things. And it occurred to me that I said, oh my God, here I'm thinking that my mother's weak and this and that, and here's my mother, wakes up at 6 a.m., makes breakfast for my father, he goes off to work, she works 12 hours a day, then she goes home and makes dinner, cleans up the house, and then by the end of the night, she's brain dead and watching telenovelas. Okay, so give her a break, right? And then I go, oh my God, my mother's incredible. My mother's even more fierce, stronger, and she makes more money than my father. That's when I went, oh shoot, that's when I went, oh wow, I have it all wrong. My mother's really amazing. She's doing the best she can. And then so I wanted to write a play, you know, especially because I was undocumented. I was undocumented for 13 years. So when I got my green card, and then I got my US citizenship in 1997, I remember I said, gosh, I don't want to be a shadow anymore. I'm not going to be afraid anymore. I'm going to speak up. And I want to write a play to celebrate the fact that I'm no longer a shadow, I'm a human being. And then I know that when all these Latinos become US citizens, we're going to have the power to vote. And when we have the power to vote, eventually we'll have a Latino mayor. And when we have a Latino mayor, eventually we'll have a Latino governor. And then someday we'll have a real Latino running for president. Like real Latino, like no. I know the Cubans are real Latinos, but you know, I don't know if there are any Republicans here. I'm not in Orange County, right? All right. No, anyway. Anyway. Okay. No. I mean, I love Cubans, except the ones that are Republicans. Okay. Right? We love Cubans, right? I know. To me, it's kind of like they've gone so out of their way not to be referenced as Latinos, right?
Yes.
And if they do need the Latino vote, then maybe they'll start speaking Spanish, right? But to me, it's like either say you're Latino or not. Okay, and if you're not, that's fine, because you know, if you're Cuban and Republican and want to deport immigrants like yourself,
Yes.
then you must hate yourself, and we don't like you. Okay, all right. Or I don't like you. I should speak for myself, not for everyone. Okay, back to my story, right? See, this is what's so great about having an ADD mind, right? See how my mind works? Yeah, I talk a lot about having ADD because, you know, as Latinos, we never get diagnosed with ADD. We're just like, pendejo, ya, párale, you know? Right? Chanta, ya, párale, you know? Or they go, estás loca, you know? But no, my kid might have attention deficit disorder, right? My kid might you know, some learning disability, right? Your parents are like, you know, they're too busy surviving. Like, my parents were too busy surviving that I remember telling my parents, you know, I told my mother, I went up to her and I said, Mama, I need to go see a psychiatrist because I feel way too much. I didn't know I was empathic. Does anybody know what that word means, empathic? Yeah. It means you feel other people's feelings, okay? It's actually a gift. It's a gift if you're a healer, because healers can basically go up to you and then they'll start telling you what you're feeling, what, you know, a bunch of stuff that I didn't know. So when you're born with this gift, you just think, oh my God, I'm going crazy. I just feel too much, like, oh, I can't, you know. And so I remember going up to my mom and saying, Mom, I think I need to go see a psychiatrist because I feel too much. And my mom, what does my mom say? What does a typical mom say? Ay, estás loca. ¿Qué van a decir de nosotros, huh? What are they going to say about us, right? Instead of thinking, really, mija? You need to go get help? I'll get you help, right? This would be the after-school special for white kids, right? I'll take, you know, right? My mom was like, hey, you know, like totally just dismissed me. And I remember being really sad thinking, oh my God, like, I don't know what to do. I feel too much. And I remember even like being suicidal when I was 17 because I felt too much. And so I remember thinking about suicide. And this is what made the difference for me. Is that I knew that I didn't want to kill myself, but I knew that I couldn't go on like this. So what I did is instead of taking a knife to my wrist, I decided to pick up a pen. And I decided to express all my feelings and all my anger. All my anger and all the injustice I saw in my own home and in society and in the world. And I decided to put down my feelings on paper. And that's what made the difference. So at 17, I wrote my first play called Simply Maria or the American Dream, which became a PBS special, which won many awards. And I don't know if this library carries it, but maybe you guys should if you don't. If you do carry it, okay, great. You do carry it? Yeah. So I decided to write the story of my life, right? I was so angry at my father. And again, no le vas a contar esto, okay? Because he goes, ¿para qué tienes que hablar de eso, right? I wrote a lot about my parents' life, and without getting too many details, I just decided to write my story because I wanted to give a voice to my pain. And you know, for a lot of young people here, anger is a really good thing if you use it to create art, if you use it to inspire others, if you use it to change the laws, if you use it to awaken people to their greatness. Anger is a wonderful thing. Anger is sometimes something that we're told that we're not supposed to express. Because if we go, hi, another hot-headed Latina, right? But anger is a very good tool that as women we're told we're not allowed to use. And men are allowed, that's the one emotion men can have, right? To be angry, right? But then you use it to, you know, to be a pendejo, right? Don't use your anger to be a pendejo. Use your anger to stand up for what's right, to stand up for women. You know, I tell people, like, why haven't women gotten this far? It's not because we're not brilliant. It's not because we can't do it all. It's because more men need to stand up for us. You know, I tell people that it's a celebration of Women's Day, but it should be a day to remind men that, look, you have a responsibility, because to really be a macho, right? If you look at the word machismo, it's about a man standing up for women and children. A real man stands up for women and children. So I love machismo when it means that, not machismo when it means, oh, you get to do what I say because I have a penis. Anyway, all right. Okay, all right. Let's see where. So anyway, I wrote Real Women Have Curves to celebrate the fact that I was undocumented, but also to tell people the story of like these women. You know, like one of the big tragedies in our American education system is that so much of history is told from the point of view of the winner, as we know. And so much of history is not about her story, right? So many, the women's contributions, we're not there. Except for like the chapter on Susan B. Anthony and the suffragettes, right? Except in little paragraphs. But women have been contributing from the very beginning, aside from the fact that we give birth to all of humanity, you know, which like, you know, like, what else is more important than that? Anyway, we don't get credit. And we don't get acknowledged. And then Latinos are not acknowledged in the history books, right? Like we have a little paragraph about the braceros. We have a little paragraph about all these Latino geniuses throughout history that we like know nothing about. I'm just rambling. Okay, let's see. So I wrote this play. This play was very successful. It had 20-something productions. It became a movie. It won many awards. And it's been wonderful that people have discovered my work as a result of my movie, Real Women Have Curves. I have been working in Hollywood since I was 21 years old. I am now 47. Do the math, okay? Right, we'll be 47 in like 2 weeks. And I love to tell you my age. You know, in Hollywood, you're not supposed to tell women you're 47, okay? I'm very proud of my age because, you know, like women are told that we're supposed to be ashamed as we get older. We're supposed to be ashamed. And I go, what's my magic word? Chale, right? Today I discovered the word chale right now. No, I can talk like this to you because you're all bilingual, right? Yes. You're such a great audience, and then also you live in Santana, right? Yes. Like you guys are the cool people. You're not pretending to be like white. You're like, no, we're Latino. We're like, you know, it's cool. Anyway, so I love you as an audience. So I'm 47 years old, and I've been at this for over 25 years in the Writers Guild. I've written like over 10 movies. I've written over like 6 TV shows and some variety shows. I've been working so hard to get Latinos on screen. And I know, since 20 years ago, there were 200 Latino writers. Now there's at least 300 professional Latino screenwriters. So a lot of why there hasn't been Latino, there have not been Latinos, it's by design. It's not by an accident. It's not like, oh, we can't find them. Oh, there aren't good stories. Last year, I developed a show called The Fabulous Fernandez Sisters, which was about 4 sisters who were, you know, kind of like my family. One of the sisters is a councilwoman who wants to run for mayor. But then her parents die, and they leave behind, they die in a car accident, and their younger brother, who's 13, survives the car accident. And now she and her sisters have to come together to raise this 13-year-old teenage boy that they don't really, I feel connected to. And also, they have a lot of issues with their father. And now they have to kind of heal the wounds that they have with their father in order to raise their brother properly and to raise him to be a man. And if they don't come together, the brother's just going to join a gang because his best friends are all in a gang, you know? And so the story really looks at the relationship of this family, the history of this family, and then the girls used to be in a mariachi band, you know? And that's why they're called the Fabulous Fernandez Sisters. That's where the title comes from. It's a story that I felt really like a story that we would have been proud of because it would have shown Latinos as immigrants, but also first generation, and also just show all the nuances, you know, because the biggest myth is that Latinos are all immigrants, right? Instead of saying, no, Latinos are actually, some of us just got here like today, just off the bus, the Greyhound bus, right? And some of us were here before this country was the US. You know, I have one of my best friends is a Chicano with a PhD. He's like 6'3", big guy, looks like Fellini. I mean, really huge. And people go, hey, go back to your country. You know, like they always, and he goes, and then he does that. And he goes, my family was here before this was the US. You go back to the East Coast, cabron, right? And he says, yeah, they're always telling me to go back. I go, where do I go back? My family, I can trace my family, you know, back before the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, you know? So to me, my goal would be to tell the story of like Latinos were here before you got here, and Latinos just got here. And there's a huge spectrum of what it means to be Latino, right? Including the Republican Canadians, the Republican Cuban Canadian ones. There's all kinds of, you know, and to show that spectrum so that we shatter this myth that we're all just immigrants and we're all here just to take jobs away from people. Let's see. So I started a theater in Boyle Heights, and this theater is called Casa 0101. I'm sorry, let me take a little, because I'm trying to project here and I'm getting lightheaded because I'm breathing so hard. And so I'd love to give you guys a postcard once you exit, or somebody could be in charge of these postcards. Give everyone. And I started this theater because no one would produce my plays in Los Angeles. And even though I had 20 productions of Real Women Have Curves, and you know what I did? I got mad enough that I decided to produce my own work. Now I've been producing theater for over 15 years. And thank you. And not just producing theater, I also want to, you know, because people know that I produce theater, everybody wants me to produce their play. You know, like a lot of people come up to me and go, hey, can you produce my play? And I go, you know what, I'd rather teach you, right? I'd rather teach you to fish than to give you a fish, right? Or a big,
Amen.
right? So then we started this program called Chicanas, Cholas, y Chisme, where we empower women to learn to write, direct, and produce, and to even act, you know? And so now I teach about, because there aren't enough women in the theater, there aren't enough women directors, there aren't enough women producers. So if you're thinking about like, should I, follow my dream and become a writer, do it now. You know what? Do it now. It's been a really hard road for me, but things are getting easier now. There are more opportunities coming because Hollywood has gotten, the message. 5 more minutes. Hollywood has gotten the message that you can't put white people and call this reality, right? You can't just put white people in every story and think that this is going to pass as reality because we're tired of that. We're questioning that version of reality, right? So there are more opportunities now. And so I started this theater, and it's wonderful to see so many dreams come true, but to also try to tell so many different stories because there's thousands of Latino stories. We've only told about 50 of them so far. My dream would be to tell 1,000 of them. And so, right now I'm actually working with Televisa, trying to adapt Mariela del Barrio to a English-speaking telenovela. Like have it take place in Los Angeles. Has the same story, but obviously modernize it, feminize it a little bit, where Maria's not, just a trophy wife, where she actually has a career, anyway. And then I'm also working on trying to develop TV shows with Latino and Latina protagonists. One of my things that really is one of my passions, if you have any questions about this, and as Latinos, I think we all have a mother, like my mother, could see ghosts and had premonitions, it could tell the future, that was pretty normal in my household. I have kids that can do that now. It's kind of trippy to have kids that I go, oh my God, they're like my mom, they're real funny. They have ADD too, so it's a very interesting household. So I do a lot of stories about the paranormal. I'm very interested in the paranormal and demonology, and so a lot of stories that I'm getting into now deal a lot with horror. Latinos love horror. Turns out Latinos are the biggest population that goes to see horror films, so that's why a lot of students are thinking, Latinos in horror films, Latinos in scary stuff, because for us, we don't doubt that. To me, seeing ghosts or hearing about ghosts or having a dead grandma visit my grandfather on his birthday and pull on his feet because she's still pissed off at him because he cheated on her. Okay. That was normal, in my family, right? She goes, ya ves, she's still pissed off. She's still waiting for you, She was, that my mom would always joke that Gorita was so pissed off because he didn't die first. So she's not gonna cross until he dies, and then they can cross together, She's still supervising him from the afterlife. Anyway, I'll stop here because I'm running out of breath. But yeah, let's take questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we'll open the floor.
Tell us a little about your new book.
That's right. So I published a novel called Hungry Woman in Paris in 2009, and I have copies to sell here. It's a very erotic book, okay? So if you're like a parent asking me, is this appropriate for my 12-year-old?
No.
It depends how liberal you are, right? Depends how open-minded you are, right? I would say 18 and over just to be safe, but it's the kind of book that I wrote because I have so many Latina friends who have PhDs, and they're like, girl, I didn't realize that getting a PhD would make it impossible for me to date. As soon as a Latino man knows I have a PhD, they won't go out with me. A lot of Latinas appreciate it because they go, you know what? It's a very honest book, and it's erotic, so a lot of men like it. I've had a lot of male fans write to me and go, wow, I didn't know women could write like this. I said, yeah, we can. I'm very honest, sometimes too honest. Sometimes people go, oh my God, you're too real for me, okay? You're too real. I'm like, this is the blessing of ADD, is that as soon as I think it comes out of my mouth. Sometimes I go, oh my God, I really said that out loud? I've been at parties where I go, oh my God, I thought I was thinking it and it came out of my mouth. And I want to apologize for saying it, but it's the truth. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, so the book deals with a Latina who is supposed to get married, and she decides to break off her engagement, and she decides to use the same ticket she was going to use for her honeymoon to go to Paris by herself because her whole family's pissed off at her because she was engaged to a doctor, a Latino surgeon. And they're thinking, what how could you break up with this guy? And she's like, well, because it didn't feel right, and there were some other reasons that we discover in the novel. And so she goes off to Paris just to get away from her crazy mother, you know, who's telling her that she's crazy. And she's like, no, you're crazy. And so then she goes to Paris to have an existential crisis. And then when she's in Paris, she discovers that she can stay in France if she goes to cooking school. They'll let you stay for like a year if you get a visa for cooking school. So she decides to go to cooking school even though she swore she would never ever cook for a man. So she goes to cooking school. So the story is about this Latina journalist who takes a year off from her life and goes to cooking school and sort of rekindles the fire in her heart and really looks at depression, also depression and suicidal thoughts. So this book is very personal to me because like when you have ADD, and then I'm also a healer now. I learned a lot of things about what I was going through that go beyond normal. I had a lot of painful experiences where I felt broken. And now I understand why, like spiritually speaking, why I felt broken, the things that happened to me in this life and in many lifetimes ago. And so this story really looks at one of my biggest fears, which was that I was going to commit suicide. You know, it really looks at it in a way that is accessible to other people. But it's also, like I said, a very erotic book. But it really looks at cordon bleu. And the book is called Les Coqs Rouges because I can't use legally their name. But if you ever thought about going to cooking school in Paris, it's a really good insight. And it's also an education about what it is to live in Paris and what it is to be an immigrant all over again in another country. So I love this novel. It didn't get a lot of coverage because I think people are afraid of sex. I think when a woman writes about sex, immediately it's relegated out of like, oh, we don't know what to do with it, right? Because women aren't supposed to talk like this. You know, even with the editor, I had to fight with her to keep certain words. And I won't get too graphic here, but I had to fight with this editor because she said, oh, women don't talk like this, or women aren't supposed to say this, right? And then I'm like, wait a minute, but I talk this way, you know? Don't tell me I'm not a woman, you know? And secondly, why can't women talk like this? Why is it that women's literature is all about a woman falling in love? Why can't this book be about a woman who goes to find herself and fall in love with herself? Why is it that every time a woman goes to Paris, she has to go find love? You know, we've seen that story already. I'm not one to tell that story. I want to tell a story to tell young women, look, don't listen to people who tell you to get married by 30. There are women who are not supposed to be married because you're supposed to do other things. You know, you're supposed to go win a Nobel Prize. You're supposed to go cure cancer. You're supposed to like lead you're supposed to fight for the environment. You're supposed to do all these women's causes. And sometimes having children, as wonderful as it is, and I'm telling you as a mother, it's a wonderful thing, but not all women are supposed to have kids and get married, and that's okay. And I wish I would have been told that when I was growing up, because I grew up in a family where you had to be married to be part of the family. I had 7 siblings, and I swear to you, the idea of me having to stay single was like, oh, no, there's something wrong with you. You have to get married. You have to have kids, otherwise you don't belong to this family. And there are pressures like that. And I wish I would have had someone like me tell me, don't get married, Josefina. It's okay. It doesn't mean anything. You know, you're here to do other things. I'm grateful I have children. I'm grateful I have an incredibly understanding husband. I mean, I tell people he's become a better man as a result of having to live with me. Because he's had to go, shoot, whatever I thought about women, he had to redefine that for himself to stay married to me. So I'm grateful for that. But I think women need to know that it's okay to contribute to the world in other ways besides children and marriage. Okay, another question.
We have time for 2 more questions because she needs time to sign books. Anybody else that might have a question?
Long Beach Daily 49er here.
Hi.
I have one question. You said that at 15 years old you discovered your voice. What was the teacher's name that pushed you to write?
Well, there were several. Her name is Marlena Myers. She was a playwriting teacher. She was one of the playwriting teachers at Los Angeles Theater Center. The other teacher, let me see if I can, Mrs. Stewart. What's her first name? Well, I always called her Mrs. Stewart, so Susan Stewart. Yeah. She was my theater teacher at the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts. And so, yeah, you know, I like to say that there were a lot of women. There were also a lot of men, a lot of PE coaches. I had a lot of wonderful PE coaches who didn't care that I was a girl. They still made me work my ass off. Because they're like, no, you have to, you're not going to be excellent until you do it over and over and over until it hurts. So you can't do it anymore. So, a lot of these coaches really prepared me to fight, to know that whatever I wanted I could have as long as I was willing to work hard and fight for it.
And the last question, please.
Oh, thank you for coming to Santa Ana.
Oh,
I'm glad that you always come here and would share your books with us.
Thank you.
Even though it's a small community, you know, you think of coming to seeing us.
Oh no, this is great to be invited. Thank you,
It's a
Patricia, for
privilege.
inviting me.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll give her. That was a thank you.
Yeah, it was a thank you, yeah, it was an
Como
acknowledgement.
mujer feminista, ¿crees que has podido expresar toda tu impotencia hacia todos esos estereotipos que hay en contra de las mujeres latinas? ¿O que te falta aún expresar, o no tanto expresar, pero quizás hacerlo saber de otra forma?
Okay, do you want me to answer in English or Spanish?
Doesn't
I'll
matter.
do it in English, just because I'm much more articulate in English.
Okay, yes.
I feel that I, as a writer, I have expressed so much of what I want to say, but I have not had the means or the platforms or the opportunities yet to do it. You know, like I've written over 12 movies, right? I've only gotten one movie produced, and then I produced one myself. So I feel that me as a writer, I have expressed myself, said so many incredible things, but the studios aren't necessarily producing those films. So I feel like finally the door is opening. It feels like it's finally opening in Hollywood. So I feel like I have so much more to do. Because, you know, like there's a lot of stuff that I've said that maybe won't be allowed to be said until like 5 years from now. Right? Because to me, like, you know, like, oftentimes when we see Latinas, they're all hot and sexy and pretty, right? The ones that we're allowed to see, right? So to me, I feel like there has been a degree of progress, but there's still only certain Latinas that are allowed to be seen. The rest of us are relegated to the maids and the subservient roles. So to me, the progress is when any woman, any color woman, any figure, any shape can be the protagonist of an incredible story, where a woman really gets to express her free will and challenge societal expectations of her. So I feel like those stories we have not seen yet, and those stories have not been produced, that I have not been able to produce them yet. So I feel like it's just the beginning. You know, I feel like real women have, I couldn't believe it got made, like when it did, you know, but I do feel like there's so many more movies. I have another movie called Lola Goes to Roma, which is about an older woman with a younger lover. You know, I wrote this back in 2003. Finally, somebody's interested in making it because it's finally okay to talk about those things, you know? So no, maybe 10, 20 years from now, you'll really get to see everything that I really want to say, you know, because finally it'll be okay.
You are a woman ahead of your time.
Thank you.
Wonderful.